All right, and welcome back to segment number 2. Brown was going to go over some hot topics or some fast topics with NBA.
Sorry, I had to get some crispy Yingling there. So, since you guys are more of the NBA guys, I want to throw some rapid fire questions for you, and kind of just hit on some of the bigger things, maybe this offseason with the NBA, kind of wrap up on some finals talk, and just throw some quick, one-hitters out there for you. So let's start with some NBA offseason moves here and what could happen and what teams need to make, some shake and bake.
Okay.
So what team, in your guys' opinion, needs to make a major shake-up move? What's the team that
needs to blow it up, basically?
maybe not blow it up, but they hey, we need to do something big to make sure that we're in contention.
You got one, or you want me to go?
You can go first.
Miami.
So
I think Miami has realized that, as good as they played to get to that spot, you still lost in 5 games in the finals to the Nuggets. It's and if you really want to actually put yourself in position to win, they need to switch something up and get more out of the money that they're paying to Kyle Lowry and Duncan Robinson and kind of clear out some of the riffraff, I would say, of that bench and give yourself some more legitimate starters. Because when you think about it, Kevin Love did really good for them, but basically it's kind of Bam, Jimmy Butler, and then they literally can't count on anybody else. I heard Ryan Russillo talking about this, and I thought he made a really good point. All their guys, he called 0 or 20 guys, aside from Jimmy and Bam. And what he means by that is, on any given night, it would not surprise you if a guy like Max Strus or Duncan Robinson, you're like, hey, they got 20 points. That's a pretty good night. But it also not surprise you if you're like, oh, they finished with 0 tonight. They're just so inconsistent because they're 3 points or die. That's all they are. So I think that they need to get more solid guys on that team. But I do think if they could get a guy like Damian Lillard, yeah, I think that could make a big difference.
I was going to lean towards that aspect, but in the same sense, I always look at teams as okay, you know what I'm saying, you're solidified in what you are and what you're doing. And then there's always the projection, and then there's always okay, we need that one guy to actually turn around the whole organization. I feel like the projection of Miami, I don't think Damian Lillard is wrong for going to Miami, and that makes them a better team. But in the same sense, like I said, the projection of them, we kind of saw with Phoenix, the Mavericks, this and that. When you have a somewhat structure, it doesn't mean that you have to throw in a Kyrie. It doesn't mean you have to throw in a Durant. You can almost just put pieces around that good team, already good team, and then make them better. We've seen it with Giannis and the Bucks, so on and so forth. So to me, that the first team that comes to mind, and I mean realistically, and I hate to be, like that, it would probably have to be either LA or it'd have to be the Knicks. I think the Knicks are that team where you got good pieces. You got Brunson that's showing up. A point guard that you got from the Mavericks. You got Julius Randle that's becoming a superstar or all-star, whatever you want to say. But then you add in, say all of a sudden they get Bradley Beal, or if they get a Durant, or if then bam, you have the
Draymond Green.
Yeah, that's what I don't know about Draymond, but just another kind of once again shooter, scorer, someone you can rely on and lean on to. If Brunson can't do it, or if Randall can't do it, then bam, you got, like I said, you got Durant, or you got
the Knicks. They have a bunch of guys that you'd love to have on your roster.
Right.
But Brunson, to me, is not a guy that's good enough to be your number one on a championship team. He's just not.
And that's where, Miami, it's all once again, then you'll have the indifference and the falter at the aspects of, Jimmy Butler was out there in Philly. I mean, how many great, 3-team, all-stars did you have on that team? You had Embiid, you had Jimmy, you had, who else was on there?
Ben Simmons at the time was still playing really good, and then you had Tobias, who was a former all-star. So if he's your fourth option, you're we're doing really good. But then you had J.J. Redick finishing out your starting 5, and that was really good at the time.
Obviously, being biased, I'd like the Mavericks to,
make a move?
Yeah, and not the Kyrie aspect, because I just don't think that fits their scheme and their system. But once again,
that just didn't look right.
I think Bradley.
They didn't pass the eye test.
I think Bradley Beal is a better, fit for that team.
But he gone.
And what
in
they
Phoenix.
Yeah. But once again, Bradley Beal's gone. This and that. He's in Phoenix. But yeah.
And there's going to be other big names that move. That's how the NBA works. There's going to be big names that move.
I think overall, I think the Knicks. The Knicks need that splash one player.
So in that, I agree with you for the fact of I think what they did this year, that's their ceiling. You managed to beat in the first round, you got to second round. That's it. I don't see them.
You're not drafting anybody that's coming in
No.
the draft that's going to be the number one guy, and so on and so forth.
So unless RJ Barrett takes this massive leap and lives
Yeah.
up to his potential, aside from that, it's like, you basically just have a lot of, like I said, good role players or good guys that, might make an all-star team like Randall. But I heard the Knicks are done with Randall. I heard they're just tired of the inconsistency when it gets to playoff time. So they're like, we'll move on. We're done.
A team that I was thinking about as I was coming up with these questions was the Hawks, because you've got Trae Young down there. You got some okay pieces around.
DeJounte Murray?
Yeah. Again, I'm not
Who's
this.
the guy they got from Houston? What's his name? The big guy, center.
Oh, Clint Capella.
Yeah, I like Capello. Like I said, he's
As long as you're not paying him too much, he's good at his job.
right. You know what I'm saying? It's that borderline. Yeah, he's gonna get you 10 rebounds or more. He's gonna play some defense, and then obviously, he's Lob City.
Roll to the rim,
Yeah,
Lob
but
City 2.0 with Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. And
I
all
feel
that.
like that's a team in the East, because we were just talking about this, outside of the podcast, that the East was pretty wide open. You got the Celtics up there and the Bucks that are going to be good, but there's a path for just about any team that's competent to find a way to the finals. You just saw that
Miami
with the
just
Heat.
yep.
So I think if you add something to the Hawks of a big name caliber to put with Trae Young, that could be a team. So
Could be. The only piece that I know that they're looking to move, and they've been looking to move for a while, is John Collins, their power forward, who I like. I think he's a middle of the pack to good power forward. He probably won't ever make an all-star team, but he's like right underneath that of like just solid starter. I've heard they've been wanting to trade him for a while, so like if they trade him, okay, but I don't know what you get back. And that's the thing. The Hawks have invested so much in like their top two guys in Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. I don't really know. They don't have like any draft picks really left. They gave the Spurs like everything to get DeJounte Murray.
I see where you're going because
But they need something.
Because you've seen it now. I think it's very comparable with both of those organizations. You've seen it now with the Mavericks and the Hawks. You know what I'm saying? Trey's at least able to somewhat lead you in that team into the playoffs.
They made it to the conference finals 2 years ago and lost to Milwaukee.
Same thing with Luka. You know what I'm saying? Luka's able to at least with, you know what I'm saying, like borderline scrubs or like role players to get you into the playoffs. Granted, it was a blow up this year with Kyrie and everything.
how
like
dare
that.
you talk about Thomas Hardaway like that, Junior?
Tim,
yeah.
Thomas.
Tim Thomas, yeah. It's the
If
same
we want
Robert.
to bring that back up, yes, I'm in the Tim Hardaway fan club. Yes, okay.
So I think a move, and this will segue me into my next question. I think a move for the Hawks that would make a lot of sense if they do move their power forward, like you were talking about, because they don't have to. And I don't know what their salary cap looks like at this point, but if they could find a way to make Draymond Green work there, salary wise,
I think Draymond works like out there in like.
which is my next question is, now that we know where Draymond,
I like that.
Now that we know that Draymond is opted out of his contract,
Right.
Yeah.
where
does
is
he
the
fit?
best? Yeah, where's the best fit for Draymond to go?
I think because you have to take a team that's not necessarily used to. I think like borderline. Man, that's tough. That's a really good question. I'll let you try to start.
Okay,
first.
so what I have to address, like, what does Draymond do well and what does he not do? So obviously, there are teams that are like barren, where they're like, we don't have a whole lot, and Draymond doesn't fill that role, because if you're like, look at like a team like Charlotte, would Draymond make them better? He might make them more professional. He might make them care a little bit more on defense, but he's not going to give them the wins that would really translate. So I don't think he should go to whoever has the most salary cap space and like that. But say he goes, because I've heard like two teams other than the Warriors. I've heard Lakers, because him and LeBron are actually pretty close. And if they found a way to shuffle some things up, and now you could have Anthony Davis at the 5, Draymond at the 4, and it helps, like, having LeBron and Draymond where you always have a guy that's smart, that knows what's going on the floor, that can, like, kind of coordinate things. That would be good.
On top of that, too, you can bring Davis out, and then Draymond can be technically your 5 as well.
Yeah. You
He can be the post.
Yeah, where you can say, hey, Anthony, we
It
don't
gives
need
you
you.
options and
Go to a
versatility.
smaller
Yeah,
lineup, and
yeah.
he's the replaces
Yeah.
Anthony for in the meantime.
So I've heard that. And then the other team I've heard is Phoenix, because Phoenix has had a power forward problem for a long... No, I've heard that they haven't had anybody at power forward. So if you could find a way, I don't think they'd have... Now that they've made the Bradley Beal trade, I don't think you could make the salary work. But if you were managed to get Draymond on let's say, a cheap deal, and you put DeAndre Ayton at the 5, Draymond at the 4, KD at the 3, Bradley Beal at the 2, and then played Booker at the 1, let's say, and because you could have Draymond bring the ball up and try to facilitate as your power or point forward kind of thing. That could work, and then you have that defensive presence. Yeah, that could kind of work. I just don't think they have the salary cap to make that work. But I would say best destination, He's already worked with Kevin Durant before. They've squashed their beef, whatever. So I would say that Phoenix would probably be the best basketball situation if he doesn't return to the Warriors.
To him, he relates to me more of like the inside presence of like the locker room, things like that, because we've seen it throughout the years. Like, yeah, with him with the Jordan Poole, him going up to Durant saying, we can win championships without you. We don't need you. He has that mentality and that aspect that if it's a great team, no one player is bigger than anybody else. And I like that almost mentality of Draymond and what he gives to a team and an organization. Especially right now where he's at in his career and what he can teach to a younger, maybe successful team that's on the rise. I think personally right now, which makes the most sense because, like I said, the young talent, where they ended up here in the playoffs here recent and everything like that, and what he can turn the culture into an actual winning culture and the experience and everything like that. I think Sacramento is a perfect fit.
Who's our power forward right now? Anybody know?
Right now, they're doing Keegan Murray, who they drafted. They play him at power forward, which I like what Jeff's saying because I agree that is kind of the missing piece of what they need is like that veteran. Because right now it's Harrison Barnes is their veteran, and he's not a vocal guy. Right. He's just this is how you be professional. But Draymond could kind of...
Now, is Sacramento a team historically that throws big money around?
No, but Golden State, obviously...
because he's going to demand a max contract.
Not to cut you off, but besides like actually going out and getting free agents, not necessarily, but in the same sense, they spent all that money on DeMarcus Cousins whenever he was the role player.
Yeah.
So they don't. I don't think they have a was it? Just like they don't have a problem necessarily spending the money on somebody.
They just haven't really been a destination for like 20 years where a player would want to go to. But now, kind of what he said, I agree with that. You would have Sabonis as your center. You could do Draymond at the 4, Harrison Barnes at his natural position, the 3. Do Kevin Huerter and De'Aaron Fox, and then you could bring Keegan Murray off the bench, or you could rotate those lineups where if you need more shooting, have Keegan Murray in. But yeah, I think that would work. And Draymond, he's used to living in San Francisco. Sacramento's like an hour away, so it's like it's not like it's a crazy change of like you still want to hang out in San Francisco. You could still go there every weekend, whatever. You could probably still live in San Francisco, honestly.
And I'm not saying he's Chris Paul-esque, like I said, but in the same
he's got more juice in his legs than Chris Paul at this age, and like.
Well, and I think that he takes a team like that's on the cusp.
Yeah.
Like we saw with Chris Paul going to Phoenix.
He adds that good dynamic. I caution anybody that thinks that Draymond's just going to turn a culture around anywhere. I just don't. People aren't stupid. If Draymond, like I said, if he goes to Charlotte, goes to Detroit because he grew up a Pistons fan because he's from Michigan. If he goes to the Pistons right now as they are, they're not winning shit.
Oh no.
He's going to put up big numbers because
I don't even. Yeah.
I think he puts up maybe a little bit above average, but in the same sense, it's more
for him big numbers. Yeah, because he's going to be the guy.
Kate Cunningham, I think, is still the guy.
Cunningham, and then there's somebody else too.
They got Jaden Ivey. Yeah, but and Bojan Bogdanovic is there. I think they could make like a maybe interesting team to watch. Kind of what you said about the numbers. I think maybe his biggest numbers would be he might average 14 points and still get like a triple-double every now and again. But yeah.
See, your aspect, I kind of relate it to almost like the Royals. You know what I'm saying? Like Salvi gets like these numbers or something like that. You know what I'm saying, for the team because obviously in Green Key they look really good because obviously like the competition.
Everybody else sucks.
Exactly. So if he goes to Houston or Detroit,
Houston.
He probably, he gets magnified a little bit, but it's not nowhere near.
Draymond is punching those Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. He's getting in a fight with those guys immediately because he's like, you guys don't pass the ball. You just jack up shots. Your percentage sucks. He's like, and you don't play defense. He'd fight him.
But, and so to relate it as like, not to go too far off, but like to relate it as me and Chris, like being in the military, so like you'll have that staff sergeant or you'll have that gunny, that higher up that will do some shit. And you're just like, oh my God, this guy's a fucking asshole. Especially if you're young and you're kind of dumb and you don't realize what he's trying to get at. That's who Draymond is, I think. And if you put him too much of a rebuilding younger crowd, the young guys won't see it and they won't get it.
No, they're just going to be pissed because somebody's coming in.
Until it's too late, when they're 26, 27.
And then he's, late into his career.
Well, and then they realize and they're like, wow, we really should have,
listened to what he had.
What's the difference between Draymond and LeBron? I know there's a lot of difference. It may seem obvious, but like LeBron is a
talent.
Athleticism.
Pretty much, but it's like that's the difference. They both are culture setters, but they're like, we're everything you guys have been doing wrong. We're changing that day one. You guys will do things differently. LeBron does that the second he walks into the locker room, says, "Follow my example." Draymond tries to do the same thing, and in some aspects it works. Where he's like, "You got to be competitive. If you're not competitive, you're not going to stick around." The problem is, yes, Draymond can walk the walk as far as defense and passing the ball and all that stuff. But he can't walk the walk if you're like, dude, we need you to get like 20-something points every night and lead this team. Draymond can lead it personality-wise, but he cannot lead it with like, I can dominate on the floor. He just can't do it.
I think that's the difference between LeBron and Draymond is that I think, borderline, I brought it up with like the Ultimate Fighter right now with like McGregor and Chandler. LeBron will show you, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is how you're supposed to be. Draymond will be more of like a coach to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like I said, until, you know what I'm saying, they had the GM had to finally take over LeBron's decisions of, you know what I'm saying, signing players, this and that. LeBron as a coach, I don't think he's that good of a coach. But I think if Draymond, you know what I'm saying, is able to like get on the same page with his players, I think Draymond is 10 times better.
I've heard from many people that say that great players don't make good either GMs or good coaches because, it's like they kind of, like Michael Jordan didn't make a great GM or head of a team.
Right.
Why? Because he looks at everyone and goes, well, it's not that hard. You just do this. And everyone's like, Mike, we can't all work like you. We don't just sit there and go like, this is everything for me. It's like, not everyone's wired that way.
And we've talked about that with coaches. You know what I'm saying? When you walk into a presence of talking to, this isn't Nick Saban talking to a bunch of kids, and having to be like, hey, this is what we're going to do, blah, blah, blah. I'm the adult, so on and so forth. And so being a kid, you're like, okay, yeah.
You don't have choices. This is your
He
choice.
knows the game, this and that. But when you have to, like Josh McDaniels going into a room with other grown men and saying, this is what we're going to do, so on and so forth.
They look at your track record and go like, well, what have you done as a head coach? Nothing. Cool.
Exactly.
Get out of my
And
face.
knowing how to talk to people, how to so on and so forth. And I think LeBron, can push somebody. And and like I said, his presence of who he is, like you just kind of brought up. Jordan wasn't the greatest GM, but there's probably some people out there that were like, "This is Michael Jordan, and I'm gonna, so on and so forth." But like I said, he's just not a coach. And LeBron, I think maybe has the esque of like, "Yeah, I'm LeBron, so on and so forth. I'm McGregor, I'm so on and so forth." And people are going to take that differently and take what they want out of that.
So I'll transition because you guys are talking a little bit about LeBron here, and that was one of the next things I wanted to bring up on my list here about some rapid fires. Is one of the things I noticed as a casual fan. I noticed it big time when we were at the bar a few weeks ago, and Dallas and Los Angeles were playing, and typically the casual fan that I am, watching a game in the playoffs, LeBron's down by 5 to 10 late in the game, like something clicks with LeBron, right? Like typically, prime LeBron, he'll find something that clicks, and all of a sudden the game turns and he takes the game over and his team wins. He couldn't do that this year. It just wasn't there. And my question to you guys is that part of LeBron's career done? Is he no longer able to be the focal point of an offense to where he can command the game and take it over on any given night?
It's interesting that you say that because I don't think he's necessarily always been that guy. I don't think like maybe in certain aspects of like because just because you're a scorer doesn't mean you're all of a sudden able to take over a game. If that kind of makes sense.
Certain guys can be shut down easier than others.
You know what I'm saying? Because we're not talking about like Luka or, like I said, even Curry.
And I'm not necessarily saying like he takes the game over in the aspect of, the team goes on a 20-2 run and LeBron's got 18 of those points. But what LeBron really did well, like I think back to like his Cleveland days, which I know were a little while ago, he would get into that mindset of, okay, we're going to go down here, we're going to score, whether it's me or I'm going to find the open guy and I'm going to make the right pass that gets that guy that shot.
So long story short, he still has it. He's older now, so he doesn't have it as much. That's just my
part of what they did this year is they took the ball out of his hands. He wasn't dribbling the ball up the court. They would have D'Angelo Russell handle it, and D'Angelo Russell had some games in the playoffs where he looked really good, and the other games were like, D'Lo, you got to get out because like 5 minutes in, you suck. I like D'Angelo Russell, but yeah, that's one thing I noticed, and I think when they were struggling initially with Memphis, like where Memphis came back and they won a game late in Game 6, they were like, we need LeBron with the ball back in his hands because that's what he's good at. That's what we know he can do. To answer your question, do I think he's still got it? He was playing with a foot injury. I'm not a doctor. I'm not him. I don't know how severe that injury was, if it really affected him that much. If it did, I would say we could at least give him the benefit of the doubt of a few months into next season, go, because I'm sure he's coming back, go, do you still got it? Can you still perform? Because I saw flashes, not in the playoffs, but I saw flashes this season, maybe before the injury, where I was like, he's still flying high. He's getting 20-something points.
Still even in the playoffs. I mean,
he had some
certain games here and there.
But this was definitely the first year for me that I noticed, and it might be because of the injury, but maybe it's just age, where, I noticed where I'm like, it seems like a struggle. The last game where they got eliminated, I think, is where he went off for like 40 points. But we joked about it. We said, he can't do that for you anymore. And really, he couldn't. All playoffs long, he would be like, hey, I had a good game. I had 21 points. And it's like, damn, dude, like, it's just different. Like,
and that's what I was getting at is that he just didn't look like that LeBron that and age gets everybody.
He can't blow past people anymore, like at the top of the key, driving around, getting to the bat. He just doesn't do it anymore.
Granted, he has Anthony Davis, but I mean, look at his career.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, granted, he's been able to do that for, like Cleveland and things like that until obviously he won a championship, which I think that pivots him a lot above a lot of players because of winning just that single championship. You know what I'm saying? I think that puts him on the scale of like one of the greatest, this and that.
Oh yeah, to win a championship with Cleveland.
With Kyle Korver.
Yeah.
Kevin Love.
Kyle Korver wasn't on that championship team.
Tristan Thompson. Oh yeah, that's right.
J.R. Smith, Amon Shumpert. Yeah.
Well, and then,
Deladova.
Yeah.
Well, Kyrie was on that team, but he got hurt, right? Like
no. The year that they won, Kyrie made that shot over Steph Curry.
It was like, I think he.
And they were down 3-1 in that series, weren't they?
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. That's what makes LeBron great because like the Miami era, that's where I don't. You know what I mean? Like, granted, it shows his talent and everything, but then you had a Hall of Famer and Kevin Bosh or Chris Bosh
and D Wade.
D Wade, this and that. Even I think there was even a couple other guys that were role players.
Well, Ray Allen on the second championship Miami, he was there. So
and that's the thing with LeBron is like, can he still do it? Obviously, yeah. I think yeah. You know what I'm saying?
For how much longer? I mean,
what is he? 36?
38.
38.
Yeah, because he's in year 20. Yeah, he's in year. He just finished year 20. So personally, for me, I think you're probably getting to the point where LeBron, like a couple years ago, they won the title in the bubble. Anthony Davis showed up sometimes where he was playing great defense, but if LeBron's not there, they don't win. Like LeBron was helming everything, controlling the ball. I don't think he can do that anymore for as long as he was doing it, like throughout a season. I don't think he can do that anymore. On this Lakers team, if they
shuffle, you're saying load management's in his future,
right? And if you shuffle the pieces around a little bit, where basically you get more spot up shooters, and you get maybe like a relief for Anthony Davis, where you get another guy that can basically like block shots and be a center. If you get somebody like that, I think LeBron can do his thing where he can be the leader. Be the smartest guy in the room, lead them, and like I said, I think he can make timely shots. The days of saying LeBron, you're our number one option, you can carry the load and play 48. I just don't think he can do that.
Yeah, I think age. If he's healthy a whole season, all the way to the playoffs, I think he is that guy. But once again, that's when age comes to play.
You get injured more. Yeah.
So, not one of my questions that was on my list, but just a fun topic now that we're talking about LeBron and we're talking about how much longer he can play. Do you think that realistically him and his son are going to play together? Like, do you think that's a foregone conclusion? That
no.
Next year they'll be on the same team?
I don't think they will, just for this fact. He re-upped to sign with the Lakers a couple years ago. He re-upped his contract. So he's stuck in. And obviously LeBron's a smart guy, so I'm sure he puts something in there where he can opt out every year, probably. Kevin Durant's been doing that for a while. Anyway, he might be able to have that opportunity. I just think, if a team like Orlando gets LeBron Jr., because Bronny, I don't think LeBron, yes, it would be cool to play with your son, but it's like, I do think if LeBron has a chance to win a championship or play with his son, I know there's this cool thing about you want to play with your son, but I also think LeBron would feel really bad about being like, I'm going to abandon my teammates and just go play with my son when, your son might not be what he wanted. LeBron actually said that. He said he was talking about, Bronny with college and then the NBA. He goes, it's my dream to play with him. But he said, I don't know if that's his dream. And if it's not his dream, he's like, then I won't, steal that from him.
Yeah, because there's a lot of chips that have to fall in the right place.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying? For LA to, you know what I'm saying? Like the way they played this year, you know what I'm saying? They'd have to play, a little bit worse just to, sneak into the playoffs and then get that draft pick. Because, I think I've said, I don't think Bronny's as good as what everybody... He kind of has the name that projects him higher than what he actually is, but in the same sense,
that's why he got all the offers in college.
Of course, people are banking on him growing into, because that's the thing. When LeBron came into the league, yes, he was a great player, but he did not grow into his real man body. He was a man amongst us, but as far as NBA, where you're like, he's a fucking Greek statue specimen, he grew into that. But basically, right as he was leaving Cleveland the first time is when he really became a workout warrior and grew into his man body, his version of man body.
I think he was still averaging close to
No, his numbers.
Talent wise.
Yeah, his numbers have pretty much always been there. I just mean like when you look at
From
LeBron.
day one, really.
When you look at LeBron early in Cleveland, you were like, yes, he's ripped and built among us. But I just mean like compare LeBron now, what he looks like, to what LeBron looked like leaving Cleveland.
Yeah, I'll give you
night
that.
and day.
But when he was coming out of high school, it was like, this dude's a grown ass man. This is a
for sure.
30-something-year-old man.
Yeah,
you know
for
what I'm
sure.
saying? This is he ain't 18.
I mean, we've talked about it before. The hype that was put on him to be successful coming into the NBA was more hype than any other player's ever had.
More than Jordan, more than anybody.
Yeah, and unfairly, Bronny's going to have some of those hype put on him because of his last name.
If he decides to enter the draft, yes, it will basically be like, okay, can you? It's not live up to your dad. It's like, can you show flashes of what your dad had or not?
Yeah.
And I think it's smart. I think it'd be stupid for a team to not take a chance on him just for the fact of like, let's like look at Giannis. Giannis's freak build is what basically makes him so good. It's not his mentality of. Part of it is like, yeah, he worked on his game, got better. But if Giannis isn't built like he is not this player.
Same thing with him. I mean, the first couple of years in the league of Giannis, he was nothing.
He basically was not making any waves.
He had to grow into, you know what I'm saying, learning that aspect of, filling out, the body, this and that, and then also learning a little bit more of the game. But I just think, I think personally, projection-wise, I think Bronny's going to be a 20-something. He's not going to be a lottery pick. He's not going to be in the top 5. He's going to be a 20. He's like Chris said. I think a team like in the time being like a Charlotte or a Detroit or that has 2 picks or a later round team. But once again, it takes a lot of chips to fall in the right place for them.
I'm not saying his play should warrant him getting picked high. But I think that someone's going to look at his build, look at his genetics, look at his dad. And you're not saying that he's going to be his dad, but you have to look at how the way LeBron grew in his body and was built. That you're like, if we take this guy and he grows into that, it's like that alone, and the fact that we know he was raised right with his dad. It's like that.
And let alone we've seen other guys, not have the craziest stats in college, and they get drafted. And
Kawhi didn't have crazy stats. Paul George didn't have crazy stats. Yeah.
Or it may be one of those scenarios too that a team is like, okay, hey, we're going to take this chance and draft him a little bit higher because there's a chance that if we draft him, LeBron comes with him.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me the fact that, and once again, I still don't think it's a lottery, but it wouldn't surprise me if somebody just jumped the gun to get him because of the publicity.
Yeah.
Because he's gonna sell.
Oh, he's gonna sell tickets.
Yeah.
Tickets, jerseys, this and that.
And like I said, you were banking on like, okay, the upside of taking him is if he grows into kind of what his dad had as far as his body, which we never like found out where LeBron's dad, like who his dad actually is, but I think I saw like a theory that like someone put out a picture of a former NBA player and they were like, this might be LeBron's dad. And I was like,
that stuff is always,
it's tough, but it's like, look at LeBron, like his frame. It's like, and you look at his mom has like, I'm not trying to dog her, but she has like more of a manly face. So like if she has more masculine feature, I know, but I'm just saying genetically, I'm like, if he's got really good genetics on both sides, thanks for the support, jackasses. It makes it that much better, like where he's going to become a phenom. Anyway,
the stereotypical. Hey, no disrespect, but anyway,
yeah.
You're going to say
no offense.
Yeah,
but that's the thing is also once again, it's like if this plays out like a Disney movie, you know what I mean. He drops. The Lakers aren't, like I said, aren't as good as they were this year. LeBron's still there, and he falls to the
and that's
draft.
to say that Bronny comes out after this year.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what my next thing was. When was it Bronny's like, I like being here at USC.
Or hey, I need another year because I think I can be a lottery.
Because that team right now for USC is actually kind of.
And I think
they're going to be a starter.
Exactly.
And I think he's a smart kid, and I think if he looks at it, he goes, if he doesn't truly believe he's ready to like kind of not dominate, but just like be really productive.
Yes.
If he doesn't think he's that, I think he should stay in college, and I think he will because I do think he's smart.
Yeah.
He's not doing this for his family in the sense of like
I need the money.
Right, exactly. So
the minutes and the time that LeBron has spent, I don't see him going past anywhere. I don't think
like another 2 years.
Yeah. Just because of the longevity in the minutes and it's only here in the past 2 years
that he's really been hurt.
Actually been missing games.
The first year he went to LA, so it was the 2018-19 year, so it was basically 2019. That he was out for like basically the last like month of the season, but most people feel like they were just trying to tank to get a better pick. So
right.
yeah.
So,
do you have the Jokic topic?
I do. That was next.
Okay.
Is championships lead to the discussion of legacy? So Jokic just won his first championship, and a lot of people are starting to ask that question of where does this put him legacy-wise all time? So I'll let you guys debate that. Not necessarily as just big men, but, where does this put him? Does this put him a guy above guys like Dirk? Does this put him, into the top 15, 20 all time? Go ahead.
Obviously, yeah, I need more consistency. It's a very, almost borderline young career of him, this and that. So I need to see more. But of big men already right now, I think it established him a lot more than just overall in the NBA. I think as big men, yeah, he's probably top 10 already, if not borderline.
Yeah, I saw someone do a list. I think it was on First Things First with Nick Wright and Chris Broussard. And I think one of them, I think it might have been Broussard. Yeah, he had him above even David Robinson because David Robinson, I think they won the title in '99 was their first title, but Tim Duncan was a rookie on that team. But I think people made the argument Duncan was the better player even at that time because I think he won Finals MVP.
I think so, 99.
And then I know Robinson was on their 03 title, so Robinson has 2 titles, but he was never really the best player on a championship team. So you can make that argument. Obviously, he's not above Hakeem Olajuwon yet.
No.
He's not above, obviously, Shaq and the Wilts and the Kareems and Bill Russells and all that stuff. He's not above those guys. But yeah, when you're talking about modern big men, it's basically we've had Shaq, and our second best modern big man, let's say Hakeem's in the 90s. We'll put him in the 90s. But guys 2000 and on, you would basically say what? Dwight Howard was the second best center, and is Jokic better than Dwight Howard? And I would say, yeah, you would have to put him above it because Dwight Howard never won a ring. Or he did with the Lakers, but he was not the best guy. Yeah. But in his prime, Dwight Howard took that Magic team to the finals. They lost in 5 to the Lakers, and he was mainly defense, and he was getting putbacks and dunks. But yeah, Jokic, I'd have to put Jokic ahead of him just because everything else that he does, and 2 regular season MVPs and a Finals MVP.
It does help that he has what's his name,
Jamal Murray, who's a great number 2.
Put some respect on Yao Ming's name.
I'm not gonna lie, but if it wasn't for the short
stint, if Yao would have stayed healthy,
he's already a Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he made the Hall of Fame, but it was should he make the NBA Hall of Fame? Maybe not. But if Yao could have stayed healthy, he had the potential to be an all-time great. It's just, he never. I don't think they ever made it past. Correction, I was gonna say they never made it past the first round. Tracy McGrady never made it past the first round, but the Rockets team. 2009, they made it to the second round and pushed the Lakers to 7 games. They almost made the conference finals with Yao. So that was an interesting team. Where I rank Jokic among all-time greats.
On shoes.
Yeah.
Jeff owned a pair.
So I don't know where he ranks among all-time. If we stack and do the all-time rankings, he might be in the top 25, top 30, but that's hard because we'd have to look at a whole list. But yeah, the reason why it got brought up is because I saw people saying that he's better than Dirk already. And I think people need to stop living in where you're just reacting to what just happened. People do this with Giannis where they put him as he's borderline top 10 for me. It's
it's that recency bias.
Yeah, and it's you forget how good these other guys are. And for me, Jokic, when I compare him to Dirk, they both have won a championship, won a Finals MVP. They both won a regular season MVP. Jokic has 2, Dirk only has 1. But Dirk made it to that 06 Finals, which people forget, against Miami. Was up 2-0, lost because Dwayne Wade went off. But I need Jokic to make it back to another Finals before I just crown him better than Dirk. Dirk lasted 20 years in the league, is top 5 or 6 all-time in scoring. Dirk was the man on every single one of his teams. You could never say Dirk was not the best player on one of his teams. I'm not saying Jokic hasn't been, but Jokic needs to do it for longer. So as far as points, Jokic needs to have more postseason success. If Jokic makes it back to another Finals, I would at least entertain the conversation.
Well, and then once again, it's always the perspective of stats, rings, so on and so forth, longevity of a career. You know what I mean? And so that's where it's just at a standstill with Jokic because it's granted, you know what I'm saying? If I'm comparing someone that I had to, necessarily, and it's really tough because it's looking at what I'm seeing now compared to what's already happened. But if I'm trying to build a team, Jokic, the way he just gobbles up triple doubles every night, facilitates the ball, can shoot.
Yeah, you'd probably want to build around Jokic more than Dirk.
Yeah,
but
and same thing with guys like Shaq or Zion or Giannis, this and that, because it seems like I can just do so much more with him than just the stereotypical hack a Shaq.
Yeah, because Jokic is going to make those other guys better, and the only way the other guys, let's say Shaq made people better, but it was mainly because
he was so
your guy is going to come to guard me, and then you'll be open, and I'll pass you the ball back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think we just kind of stand right now. I think we're in the
I
need a little bit more longevity and consistency.
You could say eye test Jokic does more than Dirk, but to me, that only means so much because Zion Williamson passes an eye test. You're like, wow, he's amazing. But it's like, that he's got to be more consistent. And at a certain point, you got to do something in the playoffs. Nick Wright said something that I agree with. He said, until he was talking about the night before, but he's like, until I saw Jokic actually win that championship, he goes, no, he is not among the all-time greats for me because like we have to see you do it. You can't just talk about it. For me, if I compare Jokic and Dirk, yeah, I have to give Dirk the benefit of the doubt. And my thing is, Jokic can pass better than Dirk. Dirk was a better shooter, even though Jokic is great, but like Dirk's a better shooter. Dirk was a number one consistent offensive option for longer, carried his teams even. So that's the thing. Watch Jamal Murray eventually, like if he asked for a trade and left, and it was basically like you got some pieces, but nothing amazing. See if Jokic can carry a team for as long as Dirk was carrying it as being just the guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So 2 more questions on my list here.
Okay.
We'll run past these a little bit quicker.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about the trade between Bradley Beal going to the Suns and then the Wizards getting some stuff back. So the Wizards get Chris Paul. What's next for the Wizards? Are they going to keep Chris Paul? Are they going to try to blow it up and start over? Are they going to make a run at the playoffs? Like, does Chris Paul have enough in him to make the Wizards a playoff team if he stays there? I know that's a big question and a lot of questions in one, but what's next for the Wizards?
You want to go or me?
I'll keep it simple. I mean, to me, it just relates to kind of like what they did out there in Oklahoma City. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're at that rebuild process, but there's nothing wrong with getting a guy like Chris Paul. Granted, he's a lot older now. He wasn't as young as he
There's
was.
a lot of money, but you're not winning a championship anyway.
Yeah,
So.
and it's nice to, once again, like we talked about with Draymond going out there with Sacramento, it's nice to have a guy like that to, change
That establishes
the
culture, yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so, I'm not saying, I want to say they're still in rebuild mode, but if they become more successful than what they actually are projecting, there's nothing wrong with that.
The difference of what Chris Paul did, or what he, I think, will do now as opposed to what he did with like the Suns and the Thunder before is, a couple years ago, Chris Paul could still get you 20-something on, like in the playoffs, he could still perform really well on a consistent basis. Now it's like you're happy if he can get you more than 15 points. You're like, wow, Chris Paul had a good game. So it's sad for me because I like Chris Paul a lot. I still think he could establish your culture, change the routines of what you guys have been doing. I still think he could make a team better. Should the Wizards keep him? If you're not winning a championship anyway and you can't really get anything from Chris Paul as far as trading him, which you're not going to be able to, I don't think, I would say just keep him. Let those guys build up good habits and see what else you can do. If they want to buy him out, do I think teams would be down to sign him? Yeah. I think a team like the Lakers people have talked about, having Chris Paul run your offense and have LeBron be able to like take more breaks could be good. But at the same time, Chris Paul is getting older, so I don't know. The main thing for me is I do think the Wizards should just straight up keep him, take the draft picks that you got, and just see if you can build something. And then that way, whatever new players you get, Chris Paul can eventually retire here in a year or two, and you've built up, if you can make the playoffs, you've built up a culture of, okay, guys, we're about winning, all that stuff, and yeah.
It's just like we said earlier, you know what I'm saying? You talked about Giannis, you know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't necessarily a down year. There's a big difference between, somebody that's like the Wizards and the Bucks. And so, you know what I mean? Like, projectedly, the Wizards have a down year. You can still win in certain aspects because, Chris Paul might grow certain guys on that team that are going to be the future. Vice versa, Giannis and them, it's all like you're number one seed. Not Super Bowl, but it's NBA Finals championship or bust.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it from the Wizards aspect, and again, I'm the casual fan, so I'll talk in, generalities here, but if you got a team full of really young guys and you don't have that veteran presence, then you don't have that lead by example guy. You don't have that, not just on the court. Those guys are all very talented. You make the NBA for a reason. You make the NFL for a reason, Major League Baseball for a reason, because you are one of the best of the best of the best. So you get to that point, you can play. But it's, what do you learn for that preparation? Like, how do you prep for this game? How do you prep for this opponent? How do you get yourself ready for this game?
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander said he learned a lot with that 1 year with Chris Paul where, like, he was able to take his game up because, like you said, his talent got him a certain level, but his intelligence of learning how to read the game and, like, study and all this stuff made him that much better. I do think there's something scary about what the Suns are losing. Like, yes, trust me, don't get me wrong, Bradley Beal, that was a good trade. You got a productive player for a guy that's not so productive anymore. But I'm worried about the responsibility and maturity of that team. I think the only real reason they did it, one, you're getting Bradley Beal, but two, Devin Booker, I think, showed, especially this year, that even when Chris Paul wasn't doing crap, he's now the guy as far as the leader on that team, and it's his team, basically. Even though Kevin Durant's there, I think Booker's the guy. So I think...
Projection-wise, I think they keep him, but it wouldn't surprise me if, halfway through the year, somebody that needs a Chris Paul, he gets traded in the end.
Yeah. and
Or
you-
bought. I think he might get bought out
Yeah.
and someone signs him. Yeah, because his contract's so crazy. But
So, last question. NBA draft is coming up.
are we watching it together?
I would like to.
Isn't it the 22nd? Isn't it in 3 days?
Oh, shit. All right, maybe not.
Are you booked like?
Find me the exact date. Anyways, question-wise here. Looking at the NBA draft, I all know who you're most excited about coming out of the draft, Grady Dick. But what's the one player in this draft, if you guys have looked at some of the prospects, what's the one player that you're like, okay, I'm really excited to see this guy in the NBA?
I don't have anybody.
You don't have somebody?
No, this year because of everyone's talked about Victor Wembanyama, I've heard about Scoot Henderson and Bradley Miller, I think is the other guy's name.
Yeah, so I've got the mock draft of the top 10 from Sports Nation pulled up here. So they've got Wemby going number 1.
Okay.
They've got Scoot Henderson going number 2. Amon Thompson, Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller, if you guys don't remember the name, he's the kid out of
Alabama. Yep.
You've got Cam Whitmore, Azur Thompson, Jerice Walker out of Houston, Taylor Hendricks out of UCF, Kaysen Walson out of Kentucky, I like him, and Anthony Black out of Arkansas. You notice Grady Dick didn't make the top 10 on this. He is the number 11th pick.
Okay. But he's like, basically what I do normally is, the NBA season just, got over a week ago, like it was last week that it finished. So normally in this time, I would getting geared up for the draft. I'll watch YouTube videos of like the top 10 prospects, or at least maybe the top 14, and I'll watch some compilations of their clips and be like, okay, do I see this guy translating whatever? I mean, obviously I'm not perfect just like anybody is. So like there's been guys that I was like, yeah, I knew he was going to be good. And there's been other guys where I'm like, I kind of whiffed on that one. But that's what I'm going to end up doing. But as of right now, I just feel like we're not really getting a whole lot of talk from like the main outlets. It's all been Wembanyama, and you're not really hearing a whole lot about the other guys, or if they are, they're not really showing us the highlights, which to me tells me this is not a great draft.
Yeah, looking at that and going through it, kind of like you just said, typically at this point, and again, I'm the casual fan. I know I've said that a lot, but the casual fan will still see the highlights of like, oh my gosh, this can't miss prospect,
and we're not.
Or there's the debate about number 1, kind of, or okay,
or at least the debate about number 2 or 3, and people are hyping that up that like, hey, you'll get a really good player.
Yeah,
we're not really hearing that.
No, so I mean, obviously, me being the KU homer, if our fans haven't picked that up yet, I'm excited about Grady Dick coming out.
On the draft that I just looked at, he's supposed to be projected to Miami.
Okay, yeah.
Hey, once again.
From what I've read and research, they say that Grady Dick is the most pure shooter coming out of this draft class. So a team that really needs a shooter, he could be a huge asset to that team. But anybody jump out to you, Jeff?
Besides, obviously, Victor. How do you
Wembanyama.
Wemby. But besides him, Miller from Alabama.
Yeah,
I think he's probably out of seeing in the tournament.
Yeah, isn't he the guy? Because I watched that one game Mizzou with you, and isn't he the guy that basically wrecked us?
Yeah,
I mean,
he's the one guy. There might have been, what is it? I think it's the power forward or point guard out of Houston or something like that. That's a top.
Yeah,
and he's more of like we saw you in a conference that not necessarily is like crazy good or anything like that. Let's see what you can translate into the NBA, and it's always those types of guys. It seems like what I'm saying. What Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
Well, what I like about Miller is his height. He's 6'8".
That's what I'm saying.
And he's
and what?
Is 20? He? I thought he was a power forward.
They have him listed as a.
But that's the thing. He's like what, 20, 19 or something like that. He's pretty damn young. So it's like once again, it's one of those guys that can.
And there's another guy out of Alabama that's going to be a top 15 pick as well from that same team, Noah Clowney.
See, I got Brandon Miller as a forward.
What I'm looking at has him as a guard, so maybe
6'9".
But once again, his projection to the NBA it could be different compared to what he played. So
Noah Clowney is 6'10". They say he's really, really raw. He only averaged like 9.7 points a game. But they are thinking that he can translate into a power forward, maybe rotate into that center in a pinch if need be.
Okay.
But a lot of raw talent there. I'd like to see what he could bring to the NBA because he also can shoot the three, and being 6'10" and being able to shoot the three is almost a necessity.
I'll do my research like these next couple of days. I'll work on it, and basically come Thursday, if you're saying you pretty much know it's not going to happen for you, right?
It'll be a long shot.
Okay. I might get together with Johnson and do it, and Jeff, if you want, I might invite you over, and if you want to watch it, because I'd be down to watch it because I love watching it. But I will try to do some research and I'll do a video right before the draft. I'll put out who I think will be good. But what I was going to say was so recently in the last couple of years, the G League has been a thing in the sense of players can now just go to the G League, get paid, and skip college, and then we're getting these prospects. Scoot Henderson, I don't know much about him. But I do know he's a point guard that I've heard people saying hey, that's not a bad consolation prize if you draft him number 2. I need to watch him, so I'm not making a statement on him. But we don't really have a track record of guys going into it's been around for 2 or 3 years. Jalen Green was the biggest guy I can think of that just went straight to G League and that's it. And while he can put up some numbers, I don't think Jalen Green's this guy that changes your team because they've sucked and they haven't had flashes of getting better. And I've heard his attitude sucks. He's selfish. So if Scoot Henderson's like that,
They're saying that on this mock draft, 3 out of the top 10 picks are going to come from the G League.
I've heard that basically that Brandon Miller guy, that he'll be in the top 3. That's what I've heard. But
yeah. I'm just talking 3 out of the top 10.
Oh, okay.
From the G League.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's different. It's it's changing the way that drafts have been done where, not everyone's wanting to do the college route. LaMelo Ball didn't do the college route. Obviously, he went to Australia. But I think LaMelo Ball had the Lonzo thing of we looked at your brother, we think that you'll be okay. And LaMelo's proven to at least be an entertaining and productive player. He's not maybe getting wins.
He's still in Charlotte.
Yeah. He's not getting wins, but he was basically hurt most of the year. But I'll do my research. I'll come back and I'll do a video. And I'm excited. I mean, regardless, I'll be excited about the draft. So
yeah, the only other thing is just about almost any type of player that comes
Great
out.
Oh, were you asking me which team do I think he'll be good at?
No, I didn't necessarily ask, but
I think the Thunder. I see Grady Dick, and I'm just I feel like they're just gonna pick up another guy that's you don't want him on the Thunder.
No, I want him to go somewhere where he can have a Christian Brown type role and step in.
Oh, you want him in a contender?
Yeah, put him on a team where he can make some shots and help.
Phoenix needs a guy like Grady Dick.
Every team needs a guy like Grady Dick.
But I think projection.
No, but you're kind of right. He can fit.
I think projection-wise, he's going to be a lottery pick.
I think so.
He won't go anywhere past, I think,
some team's
16.
gonna. Yes.
No, the highest I think he falls is 16. Other than that, he's going way before then.
Yeah, some team's gonna fall in love with the ability to shoot the ball, and he does a lot of things that other teams just don't, or other guys that just don't like to do.
And you said he's what, 6'8", 6'9"?
Yeah.
Which to me is the perfect size of you're good enough where you can be mobile and but you're still you're big enough where you can score on a lot of people, but you're not 7 foot where we're worrying about your ankles every 2 seconds. And
The comparison is what's his name? Was it Bellinelli?
Marco Bellinelli. I don't remember how tall he was, but is Grady Dick that good of a 3-point shooter?
He's pretty good.
Okay, I mean
tall, this and that.
Well, are you thinking of Gallinari?
Gallinari. My bad.
Yeah, Italians who mix them up, but no, but
the Italian.
I think Gallinari's 6'11" or 6'10", so he's maybe slightly taller. But yeah, a guy that he's just going to have a long career of I can make a 3-point shot, I can make a mid-range shot, if he can learn. Can Grady Dick post up?
A little bit.
He don't have to beef up.
But if he works on it, because that's the thing, Gallinari wasn't a gigantic guy when he came out.
Towards the end of the year, he got much better at driving to the hole.
The only other one, like I said before, is anybody just coming out of Kentucky. One and done freshman. It's always a prospect, this and that. And
it's somebody that you got to watch.
Carson Wallace right now. I just looked him up, and he actually looks, like I said, the stereotypical could be Fox and all these guys.
Oh, point guard. Okay.
Yeah, that come out of. You know what I'm saying? And make instant impacts. Yeah. And right now, he's projected to go to the Mavericks, so let's see.
Well, let's put a bow on this one. We'll come back in just a minute and talk some
Sounds
baseball.
Good. Sounds good.